Jesus. All right. Well, we're going to try something new here. We're going to do a product review with the manufacturer. So let's start it off with Maaak. If you guys don't know who Maaak is, we'll have him explain. Mark, why don't you tell everyone who you are, man, what you do, and where you're from?
I am Mark Buzzel. I own Nor'easter Game Calls and MAB Custom Knives. I make custom game calls and custom hunting knives. And I'm in Maine.
You're in Maine?
Maine, that's the accent. Like my dad's a carpenter.
Do you park the car at the curb? Why don't you explain it to everybody a little bit what you do in the shop, man? You're always busy. You're there all night, every night, and you come up with these magnificent things. But why don't you kind of explain to everybody kind of what you do?
Well, it's pretty much started when I got a bad game call from a store, did some research, started making my own, and then it just kind of blossomed from there with people wanting them and me wanting to sell them to them. So pretty much if you can hunt it, I make a call for it. I try to stay extremely affordable for the average, average person can buy one of my calls. They're warranted for life, so that if you break it somehow, all you got to do is get it back to me. I'll pay for the return shipping as well. So I'll always take care of the call for you, so you'll have it forever. And I'm always here for phone calls if you got questions or whatever. If you take it apart and something happens to it, you can't get the sound out of it, or something's weird, that's what I'm here for. But I do the turkey, goose, duck, like I said, pretty much anything that you can hunt, coyotes, rabbit squealers. Everything's pretty much listed on the Nor'easter Game Calls website. I do special runs for you guys for the Outdoor Drive podcast, where we'll come up with an idea, like we did the Honduran Rosewood Evolution Series Grunt call. For anybody that's been following you or hasn't been, the Grunt call is kind of the claim to fame. It started quite some time ago with trying to come up with a better deer call. So we started with what everybody does: buy the guts and turn it, and put it together, and it all kind of mismatched. And they sounded good the first series of them, but there's always an issue with that plastic grunt tube that you pull down on. It makes a lot of noise if you're walking through the woods. There was no real adjustment to it. You had to take it apart to get a doe bleed or a regular, big swamp donkey grunt. So I did some more research and pretty much came up with getting a collar put on them to keep them from splitting. When you put the tone board into the call, a lot of times you push in too hard, it'll split the calls open. Everybody's had that problem with them. So I put a collar on it with my logo, and then did some more research and got a rubber tube made for the end of it. So it's nice and quiet. I've got one right here for you to see it. So basically this rubber tube is what changed everything in these grunt calls. So that, and of course the slide. So everything on here I make. So I have to make this little tiny thumb slide. This one's made out of coca-cola wood. It's poured in illuminite resin, which I do here as well. This one is wasp nest, which is a real wasp nest. I don't know if you can see it nice enough or not.
Absolutely gorgeous.
So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I use a lot of different materials of stuff that you can see in the woods. This one has kind of a funny story where I was hunting this year. I had to put up some posted signs because I guess people can't read if there's only like 8 or 10 of them. You need like 50 of them put out. So I went to put one on the building, and of course these bald-faced hornets come out of there at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I ran like a little girl because those things will chase you. So when the season started, I went in and I retrieved what I wanted, which was, they don't make a paper nest around their cone. They make just this cone. So you can just pop the cones off in the ceiling of this little building and put it back into a call. So anyways, back to this again. I had this manufactured for me from a CAD drawing, how many ripples I wanted in it, what the softness of the rubber was, all that good stuff to fit the calls. And then again, like I say, make this little slide. So this slide will slide up and down so that you can go from your doe bleat, and then you can just take your thumb and slide that slide down, and so it makes quite a difference. And that rubber tubing is what you can really change. You can squash it down, put back pressure. So that was pretty much that. Again, everything's made by me. This is hand turned, which is the tone channel, and this is hand turned. That's handmade. Then it's cut out. I use a CNC machine just to cut this little slot. Everything else is hand turned on a lathe, and put together one at a time. So that's kind of where I started with getting another run of calls out. Here's another one. This one has beech nut husks inside the call. Again, I'll use grass, I'll use maple, I'll use moss, birchbark, pretty much anything that you can find in the woods when you're deer hunting. I've tried to incorporate it into the acrylic so that your call's one of a kind, and it's kind of special. So I use, again, acorns. You've seen them all. There's a pile of different ones. Again, really easy to manipulate the slide to go from that doe bleat, slide it, buck grunt, or a young buck, just move it just a little bit. So that's the grunt calls. Another update is, I believe Trevor was the first one to. I try to tell people yeah, I know it was coming, to run these upside down with your thumb down here, so that you can run your thumb up and down, because by doing that, it causes you to hold onto this tube so that you're not holding here and pulling it apart. But occasionally it happens. So when this one pops apart, there's an O-ring now right around that, so that you don't lose the slide. The call will still work, but it's buck grunt only. So now if you did pop it apart in your tree stand, at least you don't have to climb down the tree, because you can see this laying on the ground. It's still on this, so you can just pop it back together. This obviously would still be hanging on your lanyard. You just push it back in until it meets the O-ring. That's it. Again, this metal band that goes around all of them prevents you from crushing this in and splitting the call. So yeah, there's been a lot of upgrades over the years. A lot of that's just from, bouncing ideas off each other and getting ideas from other people as well. So that's one of the upgrades that that the calls will all leave with that O-ring now, so that if you do pull it apart, that's not going anywhere.
I know all about that. That's definitely a necessity to.
Yeah, but you're not the only one. So like I said, I bet I shipped out 5 of those slides. And it's not just, hey, there's a slide. I've got to make that slide. I've got to make it. Then I've got to make the little thumb stud. Then I got to glue it on there. And I'm not there to adjust the tone, because some of these, as I put them together, if I want it to slide differently, when you pop them apart, right in this channel is where that goes. And sometimes I'll bend that piece back and forth to see what type of noise it'll make. So sometimes I'll crush that slide a little bit. So it basically, let me grab the slide. So without the O-ring, this slide disappears. Sometimes I'll open this piece a little bit, or I'll close it depending on the sound that I want, because that changes right when it gets down to the end. When you slide that piece, it depends on how much it pushes down on that tone board.
Right.
So that's basically where we're at with that. Is I'm trying to upgrade those so that we don't have issues. Finding a spot that I like them in the calls, in between the Nor and Easters, where I try to put all the slides. So yeah.
Especially when it's cold,
that's
too.
Pretty much that on the deer grunts. Yeah, when it's cold, and again, I mean, you get gloves on, you're trying to run them, you got your face mask still on. Again, they're easy to adjust. I've had some people call and say, "Gee, I've got to put a lot of air through that call to get that grunt sound that I want." I mean, take them apart. That's what they're there for. You can just pull that slide, that little tone board that's inside there. It's got the reed. Pull that reed forward just a smidgen, and now it's less air to run. It's really easy to adjust those, so that you can just barely have to blow through them to get the tone. So I try to set them right in kind of a neutral position.
So what other kind of stuff are you doing inside the shop?
I've upgraded this year on my duck and goose calls. I know you just got one that I had done for you, your goose call that was made out of flame box elder barrel. It's basically doing the whole call. A lot of guys will turn this barrel, and then after they turn the barrel, they'll just buy an insert and stick it in here. It's made by, Echo or R&T. So what I ended up doing is I have my original. Let me grab it. I'm going to disappear for a second. So here's my original that I made. This just got a maple top, cocobolo with African blackwood. So this is the important part. This is all hand turn on the lathe. You drill it, you put it in a jig, you drill your hole, the little reed goes in there. So what I end up doing is chopping one off right here, getting rid of this part, and then molding it with a rubber mold, pouring it in acrylic. Now I have one. And then I would pour another one and another one. And pretty soon I had a dozen of them. So they all sounded exactly the way I wanted it. And then I poured a dozen of them with the rubber mold, so that when I want reeds now, I just pour them. So what that gives me is this. It gives me a nice acrylic soundboard. They're going to always sound the same. I can cut the reeds the same, because what happens with wood is as you spit on it, be it cocobolo wood or African blackwood, whatever these guys use, these real high-end custom calls for $100 to $300. They're gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. They sound great. But over time, that sound is going to change. There's no way around it. The wood is going to warp. The wood is going to absorb moisture from your breath. Even if it's stabilized wood, it's still going to change the tone of that call a little bit. And going with an acrylic or an ABS, it doesn't change. So that each time I put a call together, I can get them really close sound-wise. I just have to move the reed a little bit. And you kind of experienced that when you got yours. It has an acrylic, soundboard with that reed in there, and you've got to play with it a little bit to get it where you want it. But I still think it's easier than my old style with the wood, because you move those a centimeter and it's over. You've got to play with them for a while. So again, higher end call, little higher end price. Again, double rings, all turned on the lathe again, one at a time. So you end up with a little bit more expense in the wood. Here's a goose call here. That's the olive wood with the acrylic resin that's been poured in with it. Same thing, you just twist the call apart, and the same thing, it's got that acrylic poured soundboard, double O-rings. So we should get the same sound each time we're using the call. There's another one here, same thing, double O-ring. So everything's built pretty much the same now. But like I said, it's all one at a time. It's a lot of fun to do it that way. And again, stepping up my game with not just regular wood. Everything's either a hybrid. This is what they call a hybrid. It's got wood and acrylic. Some of them I purchase, some of them I build myself right in the shop. I use exotic blanks for a lot of my wood now. I just call him and he shows me what he's got. He's got a lot of like the yellow cedar burl, and this is yellow cedar. It's a little hard to come by. It is pretty stuff. It looks even prettier when you first get it as far as the colors, but then as you get into it, it'll start removing some of that color because it didn't penetrate the wood all the way. The hard part, what a lot of people don't understand, is this one call for this one piece of wood is $45. That's my cost on the wood. So, and I think these calls list anywhere from 85 to 95. So there's not a lot of room by the time you get all your parts and pieces and time put into it.
So with turkey season coming up, what do you got in the turkey for the turkey? Oh, you got more?
I can just that one. That's made out. I was just going to say again, using from the grunt calls. That's the duck call that's made out of mammoth ivory with the acrylic resin. I had Gary pour. That's
that's pretty.
You can see behind me up on the wall. There's mammoth ivory that you can on the very top shelf. That's mammoth ivory. Mammoth ivory is weird. If you want to pay a lot of money, you can get a solid block, and it's a lot of money. Like to do a duck call, you're looking at $300 to $400. Or you can get one that it starts to come apart like a tree. Each ring separates from the next ring. So that's what you're seeing there, those rings from that round tusk, they fall apart. So you stick the rings all back together the best you can, and then fill it with a resin, and then you can make a duck call out of it.
That's pretty damn
cool. Yes, as far as turkey, I'm still going to do the box calls as much as I despise doing them because they're very time consuming, and there's no money in them whatsoever. We all know that. It kind of reminds me of burning wood when I was a kid with my dad. You see that one stick of wood like 12 times. Really, a box call, if you don't see it 10 times, you didn't make it right. By the time you get the pieces cut out, glue the pieces together, re-sand it, and then start putting the finish on it, then sand it again. Then I got to laser engrave the top and laser engrave the bottom. And then now I got to tune it, and then I've got to drill it, put the chalk in it, because you know and I know I think I'm the only one that does that.
Yep, that I know of.
That's the vial of chalk inside the call. Yeah, and again, that's a great idea because if you do lose the soundboard, and that's the little one there, that's that little oak ridge of the cedar swamp. It's just a cedar call with the oak. But again, there's the laser engraving on the front, laser engraving on the back. And again, like I said, it's a lot of work that goes into them to get them right. So I still do it because so many people like those calls. So they'll always be available. And of course, we did your version last year. This the outdoor drive. That's the little clucker.
That's right. Mine's sitting right there.
Yeah, and I think these are awesome for even anybody really, from adults to kids. Where remember that little flipper that comes up so that you can do that little cluck, and then put the flipper back down. And it's still, even for a little teeny call, it's got some pretty decent tunes. It's got some nice little hen noises. So they're a cute little call. Again, all laser engraved, front, back, your logo, my logo, a little bit of everything.
Perfect.
Yeah, we struck
And of
up a
course,
few
then I get
birds
into the
with it.
bigger calls.
I think next year I'm just gonna.
Yeah, they work pretty cool. They're nice to have.
I'm just gonna be straight little clucker. I'm just gonna kill all my birds with a clucker. That's it.
You could try. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you know, they don't sound like a big box call like one of these. This one's all walnut and sycamore lace burl. These are gorgeous, and of course they've got that big call sound where you. So and again, chalk inside where it belongs. This is SW hybrid. So yeah, the box calls will always be there. I'm still pouring more acrylics. I'm going after that call that you sent me, Trevor, that you really liked, that I disassembled, so that I could kind of copy and mimic sizes, width, dimensions, and so forth. Because when you get into these turkey pot calls, which I pour out of acrylic and turn them on the lathe, I also do the wood calls as well. We've all known for, geez, how long have we known each other now? It's just been a battle to get that sound where we want it. And we're so close now so that every one of them that leaves is dang close sound-wise to what we want. So I've got that last step between the thin series, which is a call like this, but about a third shorter in distance from the soundboard to the playing surface. And we're getting really close. A lot of learning curve was guys will offer pretty much, slate, copper, aluminum, plastic glass and crystal. You really can't. You can, but the sound changes every time you do that, and you can put yourself outside of the sound of what the person is looking for on the turkey call. And I still run into that because even though this is perfect, now this changes everything.
Yep.
What type of wood you're using for a striker, how much this weighs, everything. Yep, exactly. Length of the. So it basically. And it's very frustrating as a call builder to, once this is put together, some of them you can get apart. Most time, no, especially wood. If you're using any sort of glass, it's going to tear it apart. And you'll put it together. The sound's not there, so I actually keep a recipe card. I probably shouldn't say that's my trade secret. I mean, when I'm pouring acrylics, I'm trying different things for this size soundboard, this height, this top, playing surface, this much weight in the top. I'll run it down. If I build 5 or 6 calls, I'm going to strike them all with the same wood, and then give it my rating on what I think it sounds like. And then it changes again by, this is Osage orange wood on this tip for this one, because probably oak or hickory didn't sound right. So that's the big struggle that we've had over the years, and I think we've got it pinned down pretty good where they sound really good. It's taken a long time, but I enjoy the sound of them now. It's been a love-hate relationship with a pot called. Again, anybody can build one. They sound okay, but to get them to the point where they're really exciting to use, and when you strike it, your ear perks up, saying that's the sound. So we're there now. We're just fine tuning it so that it'll be finished this year.
I'm excited to see what comes out. And do you have anything new coming in the shop?
I'm still waiting for a drill bit so that we can get into those ivory calls. I sold the prototype to Chad Wilson. He couldn't help himself. So I was going to keep it because, again, mammoth ivory slide, mammoth ivory call. It's just pieces of mammoth ivory in acrylic. But yeah, dealing with these bigger companies, trying to get a step down bit for what I want to do. They won't even do a quote because I just want 1 or 3 or 5. They want to sell 50. And I try to explain to them, give me the price of 50 and sell me 5. I really don't care what the price is. I need to have this, but they're not willing to work. So I've been trying different things with different bits, and I'm getting a little more success because drilling ivory is tough going. So that's really about the only thing I want to pull out for next year for deer season is come up with that, is so that we have a mammoth ivory line. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go back into the rosewood burl. I'll probably do a really short run of those, probably 6 or 8 of those. And turkey pot calls, yeah, I think it's going to stay. I'd like to do some hybrids again where it's wood and acrylic. Play with that a little bit again this year. And then, of course, we've got the Ridge Runner. Is what Steve and I came up with that we're going to call it, is that little turkey call from Virginia. That's going to be kind of fun to play with and see if we can get a really good sound out of it.
So what other I guess species of calls do you do also in the shop?
Or what?
Yeah, like I said, pretty much
Or
anything
to kill those
you can hunt.
species.
Yeah, yep. Well, here's a long range coyote howler that's made out of just cattle horn, open reed. These are extremely loud. These are what the guys used originally back in the day. I like these if it's a night where there's a little bit of wind blowing. Again, in this day and age, everybody's got Fox Pros and this and that. That's all fine and dandy when they work. You better have one of these for when your batteries go dead. And again, this is just as loud as any Fox Pro and then some because of the size of that speaker on this thing. So yeah, again, squirrel calls, predator calls. I've got the rabbit squealers. I do elk calls. I do the cow elk. Like I said, pretty much, if you can hunt it, I can make a call for it for the most part. As you and I talk next year, hopefully I'll get into the old squaw. I'm going to give that a whirl, possibly Sika. Again, it comes into me buying the calls that are out there and take them apart and see what makes them tick and then go my own way.
Right.
So that there's more than just one distributor out there doing it.
Hope to see a Brant goose too.
Yeah, I think we can go down that road. Like I said, I've already doing speckle belly, so
It's not much different than
it's
that.
pretty straightforward. No, I don't think so. No, I've heard the sound fouls and stuff, and I think I can tweak one out so that we can do that. Because like I said, speckle bellies, that's more of a very far northern thing.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with Mark being a custom call builder. If there's something that you think that you need, he might just make it for you. You just got to reach out to him.
Yeah. And that's no lie. Like we was talking about with the Ridge Runner. I literally sent him a call that was unique to up here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, an old call maker that had passed away. And I shipped it to him and I said, this is a cool little local call. Do you think you can redo it? And he's done an incredible job creating an entire new run to bring this call back to life.
Yeah, and it's been I even involved my dad. I mean, he's 88 years old, and he got right into it with me because he's still got a lot of his big power tools. So we could, notch out those calls the way they should be. Again, my CNC, I figured it was going to be a walk in the park to hollow those out. Let me grab one so you can see it real quick.
I wondered how that would go.
It really wasn't.
No,
it didn't go well.
There's a reason I didn't try.
The CNC machine didn't like it. I don't blame you because it was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. The CNC machine doesn't like digging out the oak. So basically, this is similar to the one you sent me right here.
Yeah.
All put together. So you also had aluminum. I've got slate up in the center of it. So again, you can kind of see through there. This is hollow underneath. It's all been dug out. So it looks like this.
Nice.
So doing that was the issue.
That's your echo
So my little CNC machine would get in there, and it would vibrate the bit because I'm using just a 1/4 inch dig out bit. And of course, when it vibrates, it'll dig right into the side of it and it'll ruin the call. And then you have to get this perfectly flat because we've got to get slate on it. We can't have any bumps in it, the sides. So I still have to round off the sides right here where the strike is going to go. And then once again, it's kind of like a box cup, but not quite as bad. I won't see as many times. This one, I just kind of played around with my logo on the back of it.
Yep.
And leaving this open for your logo or someone else's logo if it needed to be printed. I think I'm going to change things up. This is going to disappear. I'm not going to put this on the back of the call. I'll leave this blank and I'll put my logo up here. And then if somebody wants the back, they can have it. So again, right now, just the slate on the top. So that's what we've got so far. It's going to be some more tuning, what type of striker I want. This is just a standard striker, so that we can get a little more sound. Right now, it's too raspy. It's got a little bit of a growl to it. You can kind of hear it. So we're going to do a little bit more work on the size of the tone chamber. Do I have to go bigger with it, smaller with it? But yeah, it's been so far very successful. It's gonna be a really cool little call.
Mark's always doing something.
Yeah. Well, I
Always got
figured
something going.
he wasn't busy enough, so I wanted to throw a new
Yeah.
idea on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
and
what
you
gotta
saw
do.
the picture I sent you. I think I've got 30 of these ready to go.
Yeah.
So I want to try to get these ready to go by March, and I am going to try some aluminum as well that you sent. I just got to order the aluminum, and I still have to order more slate and get it cut up. So I figured slate would be an easier playing surface. That aluminum's a little tough because you got to make sure you can scuff it up and it's down in the
Right.
center. But it's a different sound, and I don't mind that aluminum sound. It sounds pretty good. So probably do a half and half slate, half aluminum. And as long as I can get the sound that I want out of the slate, again, it's not bad. And you can really change the sound as well just by cupping your hand over the end of it.
Right.
It's pretty amazing just what your fingers will do if you leave it open.
No
And then-
comment. Oh yeah.
It's pretty
Into
strange.
it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So it's different. Like I
Always
said, I've never
something.
seen one, and I was not able to talk with the gentleman that obviously originally built them to say why, what, how, is this the way, or do you hold it this way, or do you hold it this way? And so again, it's all experimenting. Like I said, if you take that call right now and you just, and then you put your fingers over the end of it to close up one end. So it's going to be fun. It's been a lot of fun to experiment with. They're pretty easy to build. You can glue them up, sand them up, varnish it, and then laser it.
Nice.
I love it.
Can't wait.
Well, is there anything else that you want to share with everybody?
That's about it. Other than they can go to the website and stuff. We can take a walk around the shop if you want to see what's going on. Let me get my big fat fist out of the way.
That's a great thing, a video podcast.
Yep. So this is the bench that I stand at. You'll see there's two lays on this bench. This is the one that I spend a lot of time on here.
I don't
And-
think I've ever seen it so clean.
Yeah, it actually is pretty messy right now, but yes, you're right. This is organized chaos over here. That's my work desk.
Wow.
I spend a lot of time grabbing what I need there and so forth. But so yeah, then you've got here's my little spot right here. So we've got the sanders, my 1x30s. A lot of that's mostly for just knife building. Pretty much all this stuff over here is for doing the knife building. Other than when we get to here, that's that pen tool buffing machine. Again, it's all digital so that you can adjust your speeds up and down on it. That's made a huge difference on the game calls as far as that last polish.
Right.
That's been a big plus because I was using this one, and this just spins too fast. It can burn the finish, and it was a real pain. And then, of course, we got the big grinder. That's for doing the knives. And we'll spin here for a second. There's the new sharpener. So this is kind of my workstation. There's your call right there that you sent with the aluminum planing surface.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm probably not going to do is drill that hole. He had it so you could put your striker inside there.
Right. Yeah, it was overkill.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's kind of cool, but if the striker's not the perfect size, it just falls out anyways.
Yep.
So you really don't need that. But yeah, like I said, I've got to order the aluminum, get that done. There's a couple knives laying there that got finished up. These two here. I don't know if you can see them or not.
Which turned out beautiful, by the way.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah, that's that fillet knife there. And then that one I finished last night with that feather Damascus with the box of the burl, and kind of cool looking. There's a big turkey call for big turkeys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a couple turkey tails up on the wall. It's kind of like it's workshop man cave. I mean, as you can see, as you kind of stare around the perimeter of the shop. So there's always something to look at in here. There's old stuff on the wall. There's an old pair of skis that are bundled over here in the corner that you can see right in wherever it is, right there. I think those are my dad's old pair of cross country skis. Yeah, and I don't know. You guys probably aren't old enough, but maybe. Do you remember these?
Oh yeah, those are hand warmers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I used to use those as a kid because you had to give it.
Butane.
Yeah, and of course we had the felt box that had the little carbide stick in it as well that you put in your pocket and burn yourself with it. But yeah,
Yep.
so there's some of that stuff hanging around. There's always it's whatever I can find to throw up on the wall, old books, stuff like that, coyote pelt and stuff and so forth. So here's another here's another donator right here. This is going to be
Perfect.
made into calls. There's another one here.
Yep.
Then we'll go spinning over here. So remember I told you about pouring the reeds? So this is, I'll kind of get it down. I think you can kind of see it. There it is.
Gotcha.
So now you're making your own.
Yep. All I had to do was make one the way I wanted it, and then pour, and then stack all of them together and do that. So then you end up with, you'll see them, I can do them in any color I want. So there's some watermelon, some greens, and some slime green. So yeah, it's kind of cool to do it that way. You can, pour your own reeds, and there's all the different colors and stuff that I can mix in with the acrylics, different dyes, the glow in the dark stuff, which you've seen me do. Same thing with the molds for turkey pots. So you can pour them, but there's a lot of work to do to them. The reason I do those is there's a lot of waste of acrylic if I make a hockey puck, which is what I always did before. And this will save me. All I have to do is, you can see that rough edge on it. All that has to be turned and sanded. And this is the thin series.
Right.
So yeah, that's about it. The vacuum chamber stuff down in here, that's for doing stabilizing. If I want to stabilize the laser, which you've seen me use.
Got a little bit of everything in there.
It is, yep. And there's a piece that you got to pick up from Matt when you're here. There's the mammoth tusk. Again, all the game call parts are hung up on the wall. Here's all the good. Yeah, now you can see. Look.
Yep. There you are.
There's a pile of them.
Perfect.
Yep.
Ready to go for March.
Different woods on the wall. The office.
And then all the calls to go.
Yeah, calls and knives. Yep.
So where can they find them all?
nor'eastergamecalls.com.
That's the place to be. And you can find you on Instagram, Facebook.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. Pretty much all those two platforms. Instagram, I'm on quite a bit. Again, being old and senile, not real good about Facebook. I'll kind of post on Instagram and send it over to Facebook. But a lot of times, the best way to get me is definitely message me on Instagram. I kind of figured out how that whole platform works, so it won't be 7 or 8 days before you hear from me. Phone numbers on the website. Anybody's welcome to call me anytime if they have a question. Like I said, about a custom call or whatever. But like I said, I'm always here for you. That's one thing I've always stated. If you get a call from me and it's something that you're not 100% with, I want it back. I don't want you to have it. There's no sense in you putting it in a drawer. I need to either repair it or replace it so that the call you get from me, I want it out in the field. And this year, like I said, not to drag this on, but I need to thank you guys, the Outdoor Drive podcast, you, Trevor, you, Steven, even Carl, everybody that supported this little tiny company. I mean, one-man show for the most part. It's amazing how many calls went out of this shop, how many hours I spent on the lathe, because everybody was willing to help me out by buying a product from just a little guy, not the big chain stores, but just me. And then to have them post that pictures, that's pretty exciting for me to see my game call that did that, that helped them be successful in their hunt. And then to get the emails and then to get, the Instagram DM messages of, hey, check it out. And it's pretty exciting. And I'm so glad that I was involved with you guys and some of the other people that have drugged me right along as well. It's been a really cool ride. It's blossomed. Let's put it that way. It's no longer, hey, I sold 6 calls. It's such a big difference with, and I can tell every time you guys mention me on a podcast, my phone will start going off with sales coming off the website. So it's pretty neat to see that happen where you guys have that kind of pull. People have heard about my calls because of you and others that use them, and they know if it's not a waste of their money, because if it is something they get where they're like, send it back. I mean, like I said, not only will I give you all your money back, I will pay you to return that item. I don't want you a dime out of your pocket to get that call back to me. So again, I thanks to you guys and everybody from the last year that really supported this little company.
Absolutely.
No problem. And it's been fun along the way. We've had a blast interacting, the back and forths, here's a crazy ass idea, give it a try, see what you think. You'll either tell us it's stupid or it's great. We tell you the same thing the other way.
Yep.
It's been a really fun year just doing that. So we we will continue to support you and push you and help you, as well as push the whole notion of, shop small, shop local, shop American, because at the end of the day, that's really how this industry is ever going to survive.
It really
And
is. Yep, absolutely.
it's guys like you that are going to keep making the difference, because you're not doing the, hey, let's copy this patent and do the same thing and just change one thing. It's
Yep.
Here's something new, but I want to take it and make it better, and you change everything about it. And that's really
that's what I
we're
enjoy
going
doing is seeing something and then just continually improving on it and making it mine, so that it was yellow, now it's purple. It's totally different when I'm done. So, and again, it's what a lot of people don't understand is I do have a regular 9 to 5, like everybody else in this world. So I'm in this shop, like you said, slaving every night. I get out here between 7 and 7:30, and I leave between 11 and midnight every single night. And that's where, like I said, when these calls are really flowing out here, I'm like, holy, I mean, give you an idea, like those grunt calls, it's 3 hours from start to finish per grunt call, roughly. Maybe I can shave it down a bit. So let's just say 2.5 hours, and we want a dozen for a run. Whoops. I mean, there's 28 to 29 hours. I've only got 4 hours a night out here to just stand right in front of the lathe and just crank them out. And again, you want the quality in every one of them, so you can't rush. But yeah, so the 9 to 5, that's my bread and butter for surviving in this world. And then out here is what makes me want to survive in this world. Doing what I do and making the calls and getting the responses and everything else that people send back to me. It's awesome.
Outstanding. Well, Mark, as always, man, we love having you on. It's always a good time. And for everybody checking this out, jump on the website, get in there, find something you like, because I guarantee you there will be something you like. Get it ordered and give it a try. They're a blast in the field, and they're a piece of art on top of that. So when you're not using them, they're beautiful to have on display. And that's all I can say, guys. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys like this new look into a new piece of the show. And thank you for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.
Bingo.
Sweet.